Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're out at the range with another military oddball. Well, we can almost call this a military rifle. I mean, it was kind of sort of adopted by a military there temporarily, even though they never issued it to their troops. But the rifle we're going to talk about this afternoon, guys, is the Madsen M47. This has the distinct honor of being the last bolt-action rifle ever designed for military primary infantry use. And it didn't see a whole lot of action. So what we're going to do today, guys, is tell you a little bit more about this rifle, do some shooting with it, and see if we can't have some fun with this would-be old war horse that never saw any action in any conflict that I'm aware of. Let's take a look at some of the features of the M47, and keep in mind, guys, this guy was meant to be very minimalistic and is intended to reduce costs of manufacture, again, because it was going to be marketed in the late 40s and 50s to countries that couldn't afford more modern rifles. And keeping it very simple, we have just a simple wood stock. Back here we have a rubber butt pad and a nice cheek comb, has a wrist stock, so it's not a straight stock. Up here we have a striker that's very reminiscent of what you would see on an Enfield or a Mauser or something like that. It's knurled so you can pull on it. You can see I'm pulling the striker to the rear. This is your safety, much like a Mauser. It has a push button that you have to release to flip it over to the safe position. The safe position is straight up, unlike a regular Mauser, which is all the way over. But this is kind of nice because with that up, it obscures the sight picture. You're unable to get a sight picture, so you know that your weapon's on safe. To put it on fire, it's very simple. It's textured here on the top. It's in the shape of a thumb. You just put your thumb there up and push it, and it flips right off very naturally. So the striker, again, can be eased forward. It does have a safe marking here on top. So when it's cocked and that safety is on, there's a little S right there. The bolt system is, it's kind of unique. So it has a safety lug right here, which is the bolt handle itself. So it's up against the receiver here, but your actual locking lugs are behind the bolt handle. So to get the bolt out of the rifle, I'm going to cock it up like this. You'll notice it has a very small downturned handle. It's almost too small. I'm going to pull the bolt to the rear, and at the same time I'm going to pull the trigger, and that releases the bolt from the receiver. And now you can see how the action works. Here's the trigger sear. Here's our two rear locking lugs, and then the safety lug right here, right behind the bolt. Putting it back together is real simple. Just pull the trigger once again, slide the bolt in. It does have a last round hold open, so you have to push the follower of the magazine down, and there you go. The bolt's home and the gun's ready to fire. The rear sight's actually kind of advanced, so it has a peep sight in the rear, which is kind of different. Usually you'll see the aperture sights move to the rear of the receiver, but obviously because of the operation of the bolt, that wouldn't be possible. So we still have a forward rear sight, but it has that aperture, that peep, which is kind of unique. You have your elevation here, which you can set, but you can also tell that you have these little tiny screws that you can make fine adjustments to your elevation that work against this little slider knob. You'll also notice up here in the front, you have a big knurled knob, and you have very tiny hash marks here, and that's for your windage. So you can actually make windage adjustments to your rear sight. So you have elevation and windage. And the other thing that's kind of cool is that there's a set screw right here, and you can loosen that set screw, and then you can turn your rear aperture in or out, again, to fine-tune this rear sight to the shooter. So that's really something I hadn't seen before in any other World War II rifles, was that level of adjustment for a rear sight. It's a very precise rear sight. This one's chambered in 30-06, and I'll tell you why in here in just a second. Up front we have a simple military post that is protected with an ear. It's a ring, so it gives you a very HK-esque type sight picture. You have a circle and a circle. You just line the pin up in front. And then what's really unique for a bolt action of its era is the fact that it has a muzzle brake integrated into the barrel. Now again, this one's chambered in 30-06, and the only country to buy any of these rifles in any number was the Colombian government, and they ordered them in 30-06. The guns went into production just after World War II. I want to say they went into production right around 1950, 1951. The Colombians were the only ones to buy any of them, but the Colombians never fielded them. They wound up just sitting in storage for many years, and then ultimately they were sold to the export market. And that's how this rifle wound up here in my hands, because right here on the receiver, it actually says Colombia. So we know this was a Colombia contract gun. So, now, Madsen would have chambered the gun in any number of different calibers. They were very open to the idea of doing a 7.6 NATO, whatever, but nobody wanted the guns. They had ideas for mounting optics to it, making a sniper rifle, but again, no takers. So the rifle kind of died a quiet death and really was obsolete before it ever hit, you know, military armories in Colombia, since they were the only country to ever adopt it. Let's go ahead and shoot the rifle. I'm using some Remington 30-06 against my better judgment. That's about all I have. And you can see it loads from a stripper clip. It has a guide up here. I don't have any strippers. I don't have any strippers with me. Oh boy, you guys are gonna have fun with that. I don't have any stripper clips with me. And I did leave the strippers back at the house. And they can be had with 5 or 10 round magazines. This is just a 5-round magazine. All right, put some eyes on here. Go ahead and close the bolt. And it actually has a fairly decent little trigger. Now I'm shooting at a challenge target down there. I got my little IPSC man-size kill zone target. And the sights are really, really nice. You can see that that bolt being so far forward is a little bit awkward for me. It's so small. But the recoil is really, really tame for this thing. And I would imagine a lot of that has to do with the muzzle brake. Watch how flat this thing shoots. I mean, it's a full power cartridge, guys. And there we go. So really smooth action, decent little bolt, locks open last shot fired. The sights are phenomenal. Of those types of sights, of those rear, you know, leaf sights like this, these are by far the best I've ever used. It makes precision shooting fairly easy. Now the front sight post is fairly broad and it's a very coarse aperture, but it really works well. And the rifle seems to be shooting. If anything, it's just a wee bit low. I'm shooting center of mass. Let's go down and paint up the target and see how the little Madsen M47 did. It looks like the group's just a little bit low. I'm aiming here, but fortunately with those micro adjustable sights, it's really easy to get the thing perfectly zeroed. Now I don't know if I'm going to shoot it with that Remington ammo all that much. I'm not a real big fan of Remington ammo, but it's all I could find cheap. I know the guys over at Freedom Munitions are selling a whole bunch of different ammunition now, not just their own. But the discount code that I have down below, which I get no kickbacks from, should get you a discount pretty much anywhere in the store. So check that out if you're shopping online for ammo.
All right. This old cannon of whirl. That's pretty cool. I see what you mean about the trigger. It does. It just has this constant roll and then a break and then some over travel to it.
You know what, guys? I'm going to do something right now that really angers YouTube and all the anti-gunners that watch YouTube. They're constantly mashing the report button, trying to get us banned from the platform. Let me show you something. That is the sound of freedom, and that sound annoys anti-gunners, and it annoys YouTube to the point where they want to take our money away, which they have. But it's not just gun channels, it's knife channels, it's gaming channels, it's makeup channels in some cases. If they don't like the message that you're spreading, they're demonetizing us, squashing us in search results, limiting the videos that we, and related videos on the side of the videos that you watch. They take our videos out of that stack, out of that lineup. And if you watch many of my videos, sometimes you only see 2 videos over there. They're doing everything they can to run us off the platform. But the thing that hurts most is they've taken our money away. And these operations, and by that I mean YouTube channels in general, are very expensive to run. And so what we've done, like many other content creators, is we've turned to Patreon. And over on Patreon, you can directly support us, and in return, you get behind-the-scenes information, one-on-one communications with me and Jason. We answer all your private messages. We also do things like ammunition giveaways. Freedom Munition gives us $300 worth of ammunition we can give away every month. So we pick 3 lucky winners, and each one of those winners will receive $100 in free ammunition. The guys over at Forge from Freedom, they do the Mac t-shirts, the funny t-shirts that you see me wearing periodically here on the channel. They give away 5 free t-shirts to our patrons every single month, and you get a pick, if you win, which t-shirt that you want. So that's just one of the many ways we try to give back to our Patreons who support us directly. And we also urge you to support other content creators that you enjoy their content on YouTube or other video hosting platforms. But also with our Patreons, if you're a squad leader and above, we give you regular access to the Copper Custom website, where we have specially priced Patreon items that are below normal pricing, but we also do special discount codes every month for all of our Patreons, and we'll usually post those codes once or twice a month, where you can get screaming good deals on flashlights, red dot sights, firearms, whatever. But that's just one of the many ways that we thank you guys for directly supporting us and our efforts to spread freedom around the world here on the Military Arms channel. Now, as I have mentioned, I am not the world's fastest bolt-action shooter, but we're at the 50-yard line, bridge over troubled water, have 5 rounds with 150 grain Remington loaded up, and I'm going to work on Mr. IPSC target here and see how fast I can cycle the bolt and score hits. I don't think I'm that fast, but and that's 5 rounds. Yep, I suck. You know what's kind of weird, guys? This. I'm used to grabbing a bolt right here. I'm reaching up much further, and look how small that bolt handle is. And it's like my hand just keeps coming off of it. It's not a very positive bolt action. Let's try it one more time. It's kind of weird. I'd say this is the most this rifle's ever been shot, considering this is the first time I've ever shot it. It's always fun getting used to different rifles. I would definitely say that the Mauser is the slickest of the actions for me. I really enjoy shooting my Mausers, although those Enfields are pretty darn nice too. Let's see if I can keep a hold of that bolt handle. It is very cold out here today, guys. Winter is here. There's no snow on the ground, but don't let that fool you. Our hands are cold. Alright, so again, my hand slipped off. Being very cold, there's no texturing on that bolt handle. Yeah, I don't know. Definitely don't think it's the equal to the Mauser. It's kind of interesting to note how the gun works. Very simple on the inside. We have an ejector that's fixed on the receiver there. It's not like the Craig. You remember the Craig Jorgensen? I showed you how the bolt came back and it flipped the spent case out. This has a standard fixed ejector. This is your trigger. Very simple and very easy to clean. Drop the bolt out and straight shot to the barrel, so you can punch it from the breech end, which is the way you should do it. Very heavy duty stocks. Seems to have nice fitment all the way around. Woo, that sucker's hot. We've been shooting it quite a bit. But, you know, it's got the old barrel bands and things like that. It's just kind of funny to think that a company was working on something like this at the end of the Second World War, thinking that any country would adopt it, considering everybody wanted a self-loading rifle after the war. But still, a neat piece of history nonetheless. You want to try it, Jason? He's saying yes, he does.
As usual, Tim has always put me up to a challenge here. He's got quite a few more rounds downrange than I do, so let me pile up the excuses right now of a miss or slip or what. Bolt handle's slippery, wind's blowing a little too hard. This ammo, there's all sorts of factors of missing this target. So, all right. See, look at that. Already not in my favor. All right. Not bad. At least I hit it every time. What was that noise? Oh. No, I was all right.
I noticed your hand was slipping off the bolt after pretty much every actuation.
It was.
Yeah.
It is. It's like this thing is polished. I mean, it really is smooth.
Not too bad. Head shot, 100 yards from kneeling. All right, guys, it's time to wrap things up. I was going to give you some final thoughts on this old Madsen M47. It's a neat piece of history. It's an oddball. Not that many of them exist out there. Most of the ones that are in the United States are the Colombian contract guns like the one I have here. Of course, this one was brand new unfired when I had gotten it. It's been sitting in my safe for a while. We decided to do a video with it and share this little bit of oddity from history with you guys. It's kind of interesting to note that now I'm getting the brass stings in the paint. I didn't know that would have happened, or I would have put some tape back there. We're seeing a little bit of wear from the bolt. It's like, it doesn't take very long to start showing wear on these brand new guns when you start shooting them. But like I've always said, guys, I'll never buy a gun I won't shoot. The finish on the gun appears to be some sort of a black enamel. I don't know if they parkerized it underneath the paint, but it's definitely a painted finish, has a parkerized bolt. The paint seems to be okay in the durability department. We pretty much started wearing through some of it already just out here, just on a normal range session. I don't know how well it would hold up to actual military use. You can see some pretty heavy dings here in the wood from just storage. I don't know what type of wood this is, but it looks like, you know, it's fairly easily damaged. So if this were actually sent into the field, I would imagine the wood stocks would get beat up pretty easily, fairly quickly. You can see again just from being stored where it's got some boogie marks here in the wood. The sights, I think, are probably, let's say, if I was a target shooter, the rear sights are awesome. As a military target sight, I think it's overly complex. I don't like the fact it has a bunch of set screws in it, and the fact that the windage knob is so big and easily adjusted. That's not really necessary. Typically in a military rifle, at least when I went through and I was taught to use iron sights, you didn't always want to keep messing with your windage and screwing with that. You wanted to zero your gun out and use it at zeroed out, and if you needed to hold over, just use what we would call Kentucky windage, because the wind conditions are constantly shifting. The last thing you want to be doing in a fight is constantly adjusting for windage or messing with your sights. Just use that Kentucky windage. But today's age, we have red dot sights. Overall, I think this gun's just okay. You know, it has a nice thick rubber butt pad. It has the porting on the barrel for the 30-06, so it's a very, very mild 30-06 to shoot. If you guys can find one out there and you're a military collector, of course this rifle didn't fight in any wars that I'm aware of. And with that, only that one military contract with Colombia, I don't think they're all that common. I think there's less than 1,500 of these, I think, in the United States. I can't remember what the number was, but the guys over at Forgotten Weapons, I believe, have an article on the M47 rifle if you would like to learn more. Guys, we really appreciate you following us here at the Military Arms channel. We always appreciate that support. If you'd like to support us, another way is just to swing by and check us out over at Copper Custom. You can find us there at coppercustom.com. We have a bunch of products at great prices. Again, thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll talk to you guys soon.